Hey, this is Jack Goggin with Stockworth Realty Group, and this is Jack's List. Whether the AC breaks in the middle of summer, it's time to renovate that old kitchen, or it's finally time to build your dream home, there's always this concern if you are hiring the right professional. Are you hiring somebody who is a true master of their craft and won't take advantage of you? And today, I'm happy to report I'm sharing a new edition of Jack's List, a very good friend of mine, a home builder in Orlando, my good friend Michael Weinstein with OLO Homes. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Happy to be here.
So when I was, this morning, I was teaching a class in the Stockworth Institute, and I used this line. I think it's super applicable to your world and my world. And the line is, if you think real estate is simple, you simply don't know much about it. And I think that really applies to building, where all the time I have somebody reach out to me and go, I'm thinking of just buying land and building, and, here's all the reasons I think we should do that. Where do we get started? And I go, I think it's a little bit more complex than that. What makes a builder a great builder?
Well, to piggyback off of what you said before I say that is, where's the land? Yep. What's it about? There's so many questions that go into it. So obviously, like someone who can answer the questions that you have
Yep.
and has the information that you're looking for and can do the research, because so many builders just say yes, right?
Yep.
I try not to say yes. I try to look at things. An example would be like last week, I had someone, can I move this wall? Well, I pulled up the plans of that plan, and I showed them, well, the wall you're trying to move is a load-bearing wall. So it's not just moving a wall 5 or 6 inches. So always, find someone that you feel comfortable with, and that will not always say yes, because there's a lot of people who do. Most great builders don't. The other one is communication. How do they talk to you? How often are they getting back to you? I don't do a lot of the sales in my own office, and that's a great thing. I tell every one of my clients I would probably be the worst salesperson you're going to work with, because I have all these other things that we're doing. So make sure they're transparent and communicate with you. Part of our contract at OLO Builders is we actually are contracted to communicate with you.
Yeah.
So I would really say, there's a lot of knowledge that goes into it. I wouldn't put someone who's green under the bus, because they can learn a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But if they're transparent with you and say, hey, I'm not used to building in this area, let me get my feet wet with you, take that with a grain of salt and say, yeah, maybe we're along for the ride. But find someone who can communicate with you, find someone who has the industry knowledge and has a sub base.
And in my experience, and again, these are people who really don't understand much about building, where there's so much value to having someone who's a really good builder from a process standpoint to not run you down a rabbit hole and go, hey, this actually isn't going to work. Then there's also, we talk about tract homes, custom homes, semi-custom homes, where is it going to be a pre-planned, you can't make any changes home, or is it going to be custom marble everything and, soft closed drawers, where what does OLO provide? Is it one size fits all, or can you get a little custom with it?
Yeah, so we're right in between those two, and we call ourselves semi-custom.
Yep.
Right. So a custom home, and I think this is one thing we want to talk about, right? A custom home is something that you're going to sit down with an architect and you're going to design all the plans to the specs of the lot, every little detail. You want a powder bath, you want a pool bath. You give that architect all the dreams. They'll design everything that you want in there. And you're paying for those plans. Yeah. So you're paying for the architectural time, you're paying for all those things. And then you choose every detail about that. You're going to choose the trim. You're going to choose the floors in every room, what the doors are, the door heights, the knobs, everything in that house is custom to you. Mm-hmm. Typically, with that product, your price point's much higher.
Yep.
And then when you're talking tract homes, that's where the specs are the same. So a neighborhood, they might have 3 or 4 different plans.
Yep.
And we're looking at the larger builders out here, and they're using money up front from an investment portfolio or something, and they're pre-building all those homes. So when they sell 4, they start 8 more.
Yep.
And if you want white cabinets, you're going to pick lot 27. If you want brown cabinets, you're going to pick lot 24.
Yep.
And if you want 2,800 square feet, same thing. So you're really stuck into what they've already done. The benefit of that one is the loan structure is a traditional loan. Yeah. So it opens up the portfolio to a lot more people being able to buy that, where they do get the new home, they get all the warranty stuff, they get all that great stuff, but they're limited in what selections they are. Where a semi-custom home builder falls right in the middle, and that's what we are. So I work with real estate partners like yourself, and I find a lot for someone. And that lot could be a tear down, it could be an open piece of land out in Groveland or Winter Park or wherever they want to be. And we look at that lot and we say, based on the plans that I have, this is what fits on the lot. And then we let them choose a lot of options in the house. Not everything, but we open it up. So with us, we have 1,400 selections to make when building a house.
So let's say somebody, in my experience often, somebody has this dream of building a house for a long time. There's certainly more resale homes available. Your options are much bigger with resale homes than there are just vacant lots, at least in the already developed areas. If we're talking Winter Park, Orlando, Windermere, most everything's already been built. So it's this long process to find the perfect lot and the perfect street. And then when you're diving into what can we put on it, normally those guys, that's where it starts to get hairy, and where I go, this is where the process of building gets complicated, because, well, are we going to put the lot under contract? How soon are we going to try to do it? Because we may lose it. How long is it going to take to figure out what can go on here? And what you're saying is you can, if you identify a lot and you have the dimensions and share it with you guys, you already have preset floor plans that based on those specs, here's a couple options that can fit on it. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
No, we kind of have to reinvent the wheel a little bit, but it's more about like lot conditions, and we can talk about that a little bit. But yeah, so say you call me and you give me a parcel ID number, or you send me a Zillow link or a link for the MLS, and you say, this is the lot that my homeowner's looking at. What we do before you even go under contract is we make phone calls, we look up the zoning. So we go on the whatever Lake County Property Appraiser, Orange County Property Appraiser, and we look up what that zoning is, R1A. Then we call the county and we make sure we understand what the setbacks are.
Yep.
So if it's 7.5 on the sides, 25 on the front and back, then I can take that and create what that buildable pad area is, and I can give you what I suggest you build on there. I have 31 home plans to choose from, so there's always going to be an option to fit. It just doesn't meet what they want.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're building new, you do have to, there's a little give and take.
Yeah. Now, when we're talking about the building process, there's two routes that somebody can take if they're looking at new construction. And I'd like to kind of hear you break it down. Generally speaking, it's either you purchase in a development that there's a builder or multiple builders in there, they've already subdivided the land, you go on into the model and you build in that neighborhood. And then there's buying raw land, and really, there's no model home there. It's you find a builder, hire a builder, and you start kind of from scratch there. What's the difference between those two processes? What are the pros and cons to go, let's say, with a planned development?
The planned developments typically have all of your utilities already stubbed up, ready to go, and depending on location, they could have sewer, which is a great thing to have. Nothing against septic. Yep. We also do that as well. Then you don't typically need wells. You have water hookups. You already have your water meter. The developers pay for the water meter, the sewer taps, all that kind of stuff there. You'll get some amenities, maybe sidewalks, maybe a park or something in that community. So there's things that are beneficial to that side of it where it's already ready to go, really clean. You're typically going to have smaller setbacks because it's already pre-planned, master planned community. So you get some benefits that way. When we look at raw land, even more rural, like kind of areas where there's multiple lots in a neighborhood, you don't typically have those subdivision amenities. The other thing that we see in those is when you look at subdivisions, the pad height is set. So I don't need to do like stem walls or raise the pad up or anything like that. So I can almost always do a monolithic slab right away, and the cost is right there. Not a lot of lot conditions. Where when we find raw land, maybe in Groveland, and your homeowner's like, I love
Groveland.
Me too.
That's such a sleeper spot.
Oh, it's great.
Oh, it's a good one.
We're building an awesome house out in Groveland.
Are you?
Yeah.
How many square feet?
It's about 2780 under air, but they have a 14-foot deep by 47-foot wide patio on the back. So lots of outdoor living space. It's my most popular plant, Edgeworth. When we look at a lot like out there, we had tree removal. I have a septic tank. I have to do a well. I have culverts. There's 8 turtles on that lot, so I've got to manage the turtles. Environmental
I've
stuff.
had quite a few stories with turtles.
Yeah. Turtles in Florida are no
Love
joke.
the turtles, but they're in the way sometimes.
Luckily this one, all 8 turtles are not in our way. But
good.
You start to deal with some things that are outside of the normal scope of what you would look at in a neighborhood. Those aren't big issues, but they can elongate the processes a little bit.
Yep.
So it depends on speed of when they want to be in, how fast they want to move, things like that. If they want that kind of more rural or more suburban area, you're going to end up dealing with tree removal, raising the lot up, certain things like that.
Yeah. And the thing where I've sold quite a few properties representing buyers in planned developments, there is kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, weren't you looking to start building in a planned development? Am I making that up?
We have a few.
Is that a secret?
We have a few irons in the fire. Yeah,
okay, all
yeah.
right. We won't get into that. Where one of the nice things about it, when I represent buyers going into planned development, there's that convenience of going in where there is a model home, and you can see some of the materials. The downside to it. And often these clients of mine, they often just go resale. The main drawback is often there's more HOA. If somebody has toys, often the lots, if you want larger pieces of land where you can have your toys or your boat or, just the freedom to kind of build a pool how you want or make the patio how you want, you get really restricted really fast. If there's a certain type of building style, architectural style that you like, you get limited real quick in the planned developments.
Even colors, front doors.
Oh yeah, I mean, if
overhangs
we talk
on the sides of the house, like things that most homeowners aren't thinking about, right?
Yeah,
they might have either wider or shorter overhangs. You might need to have gutters. We do gutters already, but like there's a lot of little things that you don't expect when you're doing that.
You don't have nearly the freedom.
No.
I was just showing a property last week out in Baldwin Park, and the buyer goes, it seems like the sun's kind of shining bright on this one patio, but it would be a really nice space. Can you do an awning, some sort of shade? I'm like, well, what kind of shade? Like a pop-up umbrella? She's like, no, maybe something fixed. And I'm like, well, I'll have to look in the rules and regulations, but I can pretty confidently tell you if you don't see it anywhere, it's not going to be allowed.
Not.
Where you can't, I mean, they would get mad. Even a retractable awning, you'll probably get a letter.
There's a chance, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they catch you.
Yeah, if they catch you.
They got to catch you first.
And that's actually like when we look at super tight setbacks on certain lots, that's kind of our suggestion for back patios is, hey, because that's considered under a roof, and that is where your setbacks are set to. So we suggest those a lot, but if you're in an HOA that doesn't allow it, there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
I mean, you could take the letters and just deal with it, but you're going to get fined and it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and if somebody, and I've had quite a few clients that maybe they're not doing it today, but their dream is, it's really what you're doing a lot of, which is, don't want to be in a community. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do. I'm going to, build this house and die in this house. They're looking at raw land and they want to build a house. They don't want to go full-blown custom because they don't want to pay what it costs to just, source materials from God knows what country. They're like, no. I just want this great house. I want to make certain decisions, and I don't want someone to tell me what I can and can't do on the land. And that's your world so often.
Yeah, that's a semi-custom builder all day, every day. And what a semi-custom builder brings you is the benefits of the price.
Yep.
Because I've got those 31 plans, and I can give you a price in about 10 minutes on it. And when we talk about price, it's the house in the air, right? I don't know what lot you're talking about, so I don't know what it's going to take to put it on the ground. And that's a little bit of a different, but if you give me an idea of where you want to be, I can kind of say, oh, in that area, we typically need these 5 things. So let's add them into the budget. If you don't need it, then you don't need it.
Yeah. Now, this is going to be a difficult question to answer.
Oh, good.
But it's something that I think there's a lot of misconceptions or misunderstandings. And that question is, how much does it cost to build your average house? And we'll set parameters. Let's say 2,000 square foot, single or 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's not entry level quality, it's a little bit elevated. It's just a good livable house, nothing too eccentric on it. What would a 2,000 square foot house cost today, roughly?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a loaded question because it's so different between each builder, right, and where you're going to be.
Yep.
You look at 2,000 square feet in Ocala, you might be $350,000.
Yep.
You look at 2,000 square feet
and
in Winter
let's
Park.
exclude land.
Okay,
just
the build.
Okay.
So I can only talk about my perspective of where we are, but we have a canyon, which is 2,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It's a good layout. Open floor plan in the main area, master on one wing, and the
split bedroom.
Split bedroom. Nice patio, not a massive patio. Yeah. 2-car garage, enclosed, not a carport or anything. Starts at like $385 to build it.
Yep.
And then most of our customers are going to add, right around $60,000 of upgrades. That's structural items, upgrading the shower in the master, or they want to do a freestanding tub or something like that, doing a wrap of hardy board around the house, different elevation, things like that are typically in that $60,000 range. You can be less, right?
Yep.
If you choose to do like all tile floors or whatever you choose.
And you can be a lot more.
You can, yeah. I mean, you could be $60,000 in a kitchen package.
Yep. Oh,
all day,
quickly.
Very, very quickly. So it really depends, but I would say like the majority of our homeowners without lot conditions are around $60,000 of spend of upgrades.
Yeah. So ballpark is probably $450.
Yeah.
Where, and I pulled some numbers, and even in the land world where I deal with large and small lots and land, what does the average lot cost? It's like, well, it's kind of a hard answer to question, where there's so many variables. It's so dependent on location, where the range that I found, I tried to just narrow into quarter to half acre, and really trying to look at quarter acre lots where it's your average-ish size property. The range within 10 miles of downtown Orlando, it was $50,000 to $2.5 million.
And that $50,000 lot always sounds really enticing because I get a lot of people who tell me about this $79,000 lot.
Yeah, look at this great deal. It's $90,000. It's a great location.
It's in Winter Garden.
Yeah.
The specific one, $79,000. You've probably seen it. It is about 2 feet below grade. So you've probably got $50,000 of dirt you got to bring in. It's full of trees. So you got to pull all those trees out. It doesn't have any utilities except for power, but you're going to pay for that power because in that one is Duke. They haven't run anything to it. So these little cheap lots sound really, really enticing. But the conditions to get it to buildable are way out of what people expect.
And looking around town, and again, it can vary. If you want to be in, a winter park, quarter acre lot, right now we're safe bet $700,000 to $1 million, dependent on how close, what neighborhood it's in. But generally speaking, I think for anyone who's looking to buy a lot in a good part of town, but not the highest end area, your good budget is probably $300,000 to $400,000. I think you can be great lot, good neighborhood, good location if you can find it, because there's not that much inventory. So all in, new build, you're probably looking $800,000, $900,000.
Yeah, $800,000 is a really good round number to be on. We can obviously do it less. And it depends. Like if you find a great lot that's $200,000, perfect. We're at the $600,000 range. When you're talking Winter Park, Windermere, Winter Garden, College Park, those areas you're typically looking more of an infill style, so demo, tear down, and then going back up.
Correct.
And there's a lot of benefits to something like that. There's a lot of negatives to it, right? You got to deal with neighbors and tight lot lines and all that kind of stuff. But when you're looking at these infill styles, you're typically $400,000 to $500,000 just to get the lot ready with purchasing it.
Yep.
So yeah, it's $800,000, $900,000. Where we win is like, I don't charge per zip code.
Mm-hmm.
If you build a house with us in Groveland or in Wedgefield, the house to build is the same cost. What changes is the lot and the lot conditions.
That's nice. And I know that's not always how it goes in town. Which, speaking of Wedgefield, that's another little sleeper spot.
Oh, yeah.
I've sold a couple of those lots. A gentleman was looking to get into construction, and he asked me to represent him, and he just said, find me the place where I can build, tell me what to build and where we can see the greatest return, and straight to Wedgefield. Where I went, oh my God, the land is so cheap. It might need some, work to get it prepped. But the return is stupid. Something that's turnkey in Wedgefield, it's amazing what they're going for.
Especially if you look at like the
There's so much
historical
land.
data. Like a lot of those lots were bought for $10,000 to $20,000.
Oh yeah,
10 years ago.
Let's see. I picked up a couple in 45,000.
Yeah.
Now, they're probably different now.
Yeah, your average Wedgefield that we look at right now is right around like 130,000.
That's still good. They're big lots out there.
Oh yeah, you're probably like 1.4 acres.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem that we have out there is you're going way close to the coast, so it's a lot of swampy wetlands mitigation.
You got to pick the right lot.
But it's no different than anything else. If you find a lot in an area that you like and you're ready to build, do it, because these lots don't last long.
And for anyone who doesn't know, I think it was formerly referred to as Rocket City.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, that's the zoning
so
code for
Wedgefield, if this is Orlando, I'm going to try to do it the right way of the camera. If this is downtown Orlando, it's out east, just past of UCF.
Yep.
It's it's more rural, but really in the last 10 years, everything started kind of building out that way. At some point, it's not going to be rural.
There's on the other, so it's on the left side. If you're driving out towards Cocoa, it's on the left side of 528.
Correct.
On the right side of 528, there's 3,000 houses going.
So let's say, actually, the numbers change pretty quick, where let's say you don't need to be 10 minutes to downtown Orlando. You do want to be in a Wedgefield where you can pick up a pretty good lot for 130. Let's say if somebody had a $500,000 to $600,000 budget, could they build something decent out that way?
Yeah.
130 on the lot?
Yeah, absolutely. Your biggest limitation out there is it's an HOA, so square footage. So we'd have to look at the lots that are like 1,700 square feet minimum. But yeah, all day, every day.
Yeah, and that's one of the few places there's always inventory.
Always.
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I would guess the lots are 10% developed. I think like 90. At least last time I was out there, it was like
probably less.
Probably less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less,
where I bet there's there's probably 3 homes built for every 50 lots out there. I mean, there's just so much untouched land out there.
The opportunity is amazing, and we see a lot of people very interested in Wedgefield because, the two places that we see the most is Wedgefield and Groveland.
Yep.
And that's because the center of Orlando has become so overdeveloped that people are starting to move out. Prices are crazy.
Yep.
Quarter acre lot in downtown and right now is in the 4 to 5s.
Yeah. Where it's funny, just an hour before we started recording, my wife reached out to me in a group chat with someone that she works, they work in the same office, and she goes, hey, so-and-so is interested in buying land and wants to build. I'm like, actually, that's so funny. We're diving right into this conversation. We're about to film on it. And I haven't had a chance to call her, but normally when somebody reaches out to me and goes, hey, I want to buy land to build, normally their train of thought is, I can pay $500,000 to $600,000, but in the areas that I want with these resale, I'm not really happy with the house. And I think there's this almost decades old thought that it's cheaper to buy and build. And generally speaking, in town, if we're talking, close to downtown Orlando or in the developed areas, I go, you buy land to build it when you want something really special, and that, something very specific to you, and you're willing to pay for it. But if somebody lived in Central Florida and they said, I want a new house on a decent piece of land, and I want to spend really what the other homes in a closer proximity to the metropolitan costs, Wedgefield's probably a decent place to go.
Yeah,
you can actually do it there.
Wedgefield all day. Yeah, you can be turnkey in there. There's a lot of nuance when building in Wedgefield.
Yep.
They have this water management district that you have to deal with, and the permitting process is a little different than a normal house. But the cost is, the bang for your buck out there is huge.
That's good. Or all of a sudden, this has turned into an advertisement for Wedgefield, the place that nobody knows, but man, it's a sleeper. I just love that spot.
Yeah, and either way, like wherever they want to be, we typically end up being right around what the resales that they're looking at are.
Yep.
So we're an achievable semi-custom home builder. So you don't really know what you can afford until you talk to a lender.
Yep.
And once you get that conversation out of the way, they'll give you an idea of here's your range. And then you can say, hey, we've looked at 10 houses. Maybe we look at building a house.
Yeah. Where inventory has been rising pretty quickly in most of the parts of town, where we're seeing good increases, it's still historically low. But even still running into, I have a ton of buyers where they're ready to go. We know exactly what they want, and their expectations are reasonable. The right house just isn't on the market yet.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing more and more people start to go, well, if the numbers make sense, we can get exactly what we want.
Well, we were talking about this before we started, right? We try to, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, go for it.
We try to coach realtors on this. And, you show someone, we said 12, right? You show someone 6 houses. Oh,
I've shown, 50 to 75 before with clients?
But after 6, they're probably not going to find anything they like. The magic house doesn't exist.
Yeah, quickly, as a real estate agent, within, those first 5 homes, you start going, let's go 10% above and below what your price point is. Keep an open mind. I always say, you never really know how good or bad a house is until you go into it. Actually, I will say what I was about to say because it's kind of funny. What I often hear, and it's me doing my job and getting as many people through the door as possible, what I often hear when I show my own listings is someone may come in and go, wow, it looked really good in the photos. And they're a little disappointed when they get in. The opposite is true. And again, if you have a good real estate agent, they're going to shoot it so good that even the seller won't even want to sell it anymore. But the opposite is true where, hey, let's go out, let's take a look at 5 properties. And then if they're sitting there going, well, I want the lot to be twice as big, or, well, I want a new kitchen, and this, that, and the other. I want to have a pool, and I want to have this, and okay, can we narrow down on any of these? And if the answer is no, pretty quickly you go, all right, we have a champagne taste beer budget issue here.
Yeah, or when you say you show them 5 and they like the kitchen here, and they like the bathroom here, and they like the yard here, it's better to just say, hey, why don't we have a quick conversation with the builder and talk about maybe seeing what the cost to build is. Yep. And if you come prepared, which most realtors will, they'll say, hey, here's 5 lots that we could look at that would do it. And at that point, then we're saying, instead of gutting, which is such a terrible thing. I've done it. When I bought a house in Pennsylvania,
nightmare.
We gutted the whole house.
Yep.
Right? Why buy the house and gut the whole thing? Because now you're paying so much more for everything. Where when you just wait a couple months, move into a perfectly built house with a warranty on it, it's all up to code. Everything's ready to go. So it's just coaching them to have that conversation. Hey, we saw 5 or 6 houses. Why don't we look at new construction just quickly?
Yeah. Let's just see.
Yeah, just dive in and see what it looks like. And it could open their eyes. And at the end of the day, if they don't want to go new construction, then you're just back in the same spot you were.
Yeah. And on average, let's say if somebody, let's name a spot, there's a lot out in Sanford. Mm-hmm. How long does it take from them identifying that they want the property to actually having a finished product? Assuming from contract to, we know that the house that we want will fit. They've already spoken to you. How long does that process take?
Yeah. So
on average,
I can talk from permit on. So from our process and how we have everything set up is the build takes roughly 150 days. Now that could be 130, could be 165. We just did one in 167 and we did one in 134. So they're kind of all over that board. But roughly 150 days is what we set the expectation with. The permit process, on the other hand, it's the biggest headache we have. So that can be potentially 2 months to 5 months.
No kidding, just for a permit?
So in Orange County, the septic permit on their website says about 15 days. The past two that I applied for were 100 days.
Wow.
So it just depends on timing, all this stuff. You know, there was a hurricane coming, so we were next in line to get our permit processed, but that guy had to go fill sandbags, so then we're delayed a week on that. So it really just depends on the conditions and what's going on. But yeah, the permit process can be long. And that's one thing I would ask your builder is who's their architect? Who are they working with? We use TSG, Total Solutions Group out of Maitland. Their plans are pretty well known. Mike Cassie is well known in the permitting offices. So we get our plans through with limited to no feedback on them. Yeah. But every municipality wants something different. And it's really difficult as a builder to know exactly what they want, right? City of Claremont, Lake County, then you got like Mineola and all these little sub-brands. Everyone wants something just a little different. So it might take us a little bit of time, but we can typically get through it quick. But you're really looking at 3 months of prep time.
And that experience and knowledge, going back to what makes a builder a great builder, that's where I can easily see someone going, well, this guy said he'll build me a cheap house, sounds great, and they're just going to run into so many problems, even in permitting. God forbid once we actually get to the physical construction.
Yeah, we actually ran into 2 projects this year where there were custom homes that we were going to build, and we got pulled in towards the end, and the architect built the house on one of them 11 feet too long. So
no kidding. So
I would work like before you really get too far down to it. It's things happen. I don't know. So, it's knowing someone who knows the process, right? After you get your architectural designs, make sure that your civil engineer reviews it. And our civil engineer is really good to give us a good feeler, right? They're like, hey, based on what we did on our due diligence, this should work. Yep. We're good to go. Or they'll come back and say, hey, you got to move the house back, or you got to move it this way, or you got to do something. You got to scoot your patio back. So we get that feedback really early on. And that saves you a ton of time.
Yeah. And even speaking from a real estate agent's standpoint, and I won't name any names here, but representing buyers going through the building process, even when I work with builders, I often get our entire list of every upgrade, every tile, and as that home gets developed, I feel obligated to go through the house to make sure everything is as it should be. And normally it's the builders that may not have the experience and, really their systems dialed, or to your point, building something 11 feet too long, I have found they've started laying totally incorrect floors. And we're talking $60,000 worth of floors that just get laid. I'm like, I have a photo. Here's the tile it should be. Here's the order that we all signed that confirmed. I found walls that aren't supposed to be there. I mean, I found all sorts of stuff where as somebody who has worked with and for builders and have been on the opposite side of the table, I can tell you that all builders are not, no pun intended, built the same. They do not operate the same. And it's same with real estate, just about anything in real estate. Yeah. It seems I highly recommend don't go with your budget options because there's probably a reason they're budget. And if you're talking about spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to build what is probably your dream house, please, please, please vet. Find somebody like Mike Weinstein who really understands the process, has been there, done that, and they have a track record to show.
We're not perfect. I've definitely laid the wrong tile, for sure. Yeah. But, my project manager actually realized it that day. Chipping hammer was out there, pulled up all that. 4 days later, we had the new tile laid. Yep. We used to use a spreadsheet for all our selections. Terrible idea.
Why is that?
Just so much. There's a million
it's so many
cells,
moving
and
parts.
There's so many moving parts. So we use a software called Builder Trend, and actually everything that you choose, say even from the color, right, faucets, every faucet that I have as an option in every color it comes in, there's a picture of it and a model number next to it and a link to the install guide for that. So every selection, there's a picture there, and it makes it so easy for our trades. So when the plumber goes and puts a black Moen faucet in the bathroom and the picture is gold, it's a really easy conversation.
Totally.
When we're looking at a spreadsheet and they're like, well, it says Genta. I'm like, well, yeah, it says Genta gold. Well, the part number is actually this. There's so much human error that can happen there. And we moved to selections and Builder Trend that now it's really easy. Every trade can go in. They can drop down their section if it's cabinets, if it's countertops, if it's flooring, whatever it is, and it shows a picture and the locations of the rooms. Makes it super
so
simple.
Smart. Where going back, when I represent buyers, I print out their entire options list for that model, which is always like 60 pages.
Oh, yeah.
And then I have a copy of our list of items, and I'm having to cross-check to make sure the prices are right, and it's all these little details, and even meticulously going through it. Every time I go, there should just be photos on here. How do these guys keep it straight?
I don't know. I mean, it has solved so many headaches for us at this point. Even just conversations in our office, because we do a lot of pre-planning. We have 3 planning meetings. We have a kickoff. We have a pre-con meeting, and pre-con's more structural, making sure everything's right. And then we have a kickoff, and then the Green Start meeting, actually. In the Green Start meeting, we go through everything. It's like a 40-minute meeting after a pre-con meeting. So we've already talked about all the conditions and structures and all that stuff. But we go through that, and are the selections right? Are they approved? Are all the POs issued? Everything there, so that the day we dig the hole, everyone's informed. But those are the processes that we have in place. And a lot of that comes back to Builder Trend. So the schedule's there, and the schedule's linked to every trade who's tied to it. So who's doing the floors on this one? Oh, it's Barry Neal's doing the floors here. Well, they're tied to it. When I move the date, it sends the message to them saying it's so the date's moved. So we tried to use this software, and we're big on that. But it's, when you're building a lot in one time, you have to have those pieces in place. Yeah,
we're going back to that opening quote is, if you think real estate is simple, you simply don't know much about it. It's so true with building. And I'm having flashbacks of the times I've represented buyers, and I'm not on the inside. I'm not on the internal. I'm going, oh my gosh, there's so much information. And every time I go, I don't know how these guys keep track.
Well, how many times have you had to go out and take pictures for your homeowner when they're building a house?
I don't like to think about it. It's many.
Yeah.
And it's always just always have to be stored and updated. If a home's being built, once the walls are up, I try to go out there every 2 weeks or so just to make sure if something's done wrong to catch it. And there's hundreds of things. There's hundreds of things that could be wrong, and where someone who's spent all this time planning and looking forward to the house, if the faucet is the wrong color, they will know fast.
Or if it's in the wrong location.
Totally. Yeah. Where it's just they hundreds
got
of moving
a laundry
parts.
room sink, and it wasn't there, but you didn't notice it till drywall stuff. So we take pictures and videos of the job site every day.
Yeah.
Upload it to Builder Trend. Yep.
That's so smart.
And so with our agents that we work with, they get access to Builder Trend, which gives them a milestone calendar, the pictures, and the uploads and communication with our team. Same with our clients.
God, that's so smart.
Yeah.
That saves a lot of time driving.
Yeah,
for someone in my shoes.
And we have preset walkthroughs, right? Yep. It's a job site, so we can't have them go every day. I know we're building their
I
house.
have clients that try.
Yeah.
Frequently.
We have that conversation. We have a meeting with them, and we kind of go through what to expect. We call it the what to expect meeting.
Yep.
And we understand we're building your house. We understand it's a super exciting time. But when they're hanging hardy board's like 100 pounds a piece.
Yeah.
If that drops on your head, you will die. There's no question about it. So we want to make sure it's safe. So if you want to go to the job site, just let our team know. And your cousins are in town or your uncle's in town, whatever, let us know. We'll stop the job for the day. You guys can walk it. We'll be there. We'll help you. But we want to make sure it's safe. Yeah. So we always have those conversations. And then we have predetermined walks. So we have a 4-way walk. So after electrical, MEP, like mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and right before we do installation, we walk through the house with them.
Got it.
Make sure everything is to plan, not to what they want, to what they assigned off on the plans.
Yep.
And then, we'll make sure that then we go into drywall.
Yep.
Same thing with the blue tape meeting. Before we take your clients through on a blue tape meeting, My team goes through it 4 times.
Got it.
So we catch most of the stuff.
The blue
not
tape
everything.
meetings. For those who may not know what the blue tape
Yeah.
meeting is, if you haven't gone through, where that's when you're getting close to the property being fully built, and the buyer or whoever is paying for the build, they go through with a roll
Painter's
of
tape.
blue painter's tape, and they go around and they're supposed to just kind of mark up, hey, here are issues. I've seen a wide variety from buyers who just walk through and they go, everything's fine. I'm like, wait. That's, that trim's about to fall off and that tile's cracked. No, it's, if you're paying full price, let's make sure it's in the right condition. And then I'm sure you've probably seen it in person, but if you look up on TikTok or whatever, you will see videos where they're just blue walls. They will go through and find every single pin. What's your experience normally on the blue?
So
we've had painter party.
We've had a haul. But yeah, like we had one customer who's like, oh, everything looks good. I'm like, no, this is your one time.
Yeah.
So like, let's get it right. Let's walk through, because I see some things in here that I would change and I wouldn't want. So let's mark them together. And we have other people who go overboard on it, and we kind of have to scale it back and say, hey, it's not when you're standing directly next to the drywall that it looks different. If you can see it from a distance, that's something we're willing to change. But we're willing to work with them. We try to limit it because of our team going in 4 times.
Yep.
And it's every person. So like even Kaylee, who pays the bills at our office, she does way more than that. And she goes in and does it. And she has a great eye for detail. So every one of my team members walks through that house right before closing.
That's huge.
We don't see a ton of it. Obviously, it's like cracked outlets, some trim.
Yeah.
Sometimes they miss the toe kick on cabinets, and all that's really easy for us to come and fix. Most of the time when they come and see something, we already know about it.
Yeah, and going back to what makes a great builder, that's one thing I've seen a wide variety on, is when you're going in for that final inspection, with the roll of tape, what condition is the property already in? Because you can tell who just went, let's throw this sucker up and let's move on to the next
one,
who had a system and really took that extra step to care for the client and go, let's try to make this really nice and presentable. And there's always going to be some little things around, but it's apparent. I've seen a huge range of experiences that way.
We just actually talked about what we really get judged on is not how we build the house. It's the last 2 weeks.
Totally.
So you could build a house in even like 100 days and it could be perfect, but it's how that last 2 weeks, the expectations are set. And there's so much that happens in those last 2 weeks. So we just I met with my team and I was like, hey, I know we focus on everything ahead of this, but we really need to start focusing on how that experience is in the last 2 weeks. Can we increase our communication? Can we get our subs to come and make sure that they fix it on a timely manner?
So smart.
And that's kind of one of the things we're going to focus on coming forward is that last 2 weeks, because if you hit that 2 week day, if you say, hey, we're 2 weeks out and you hit it, man, great. If you're like 3 days late, they're like, oh, you were late. I'm like, I was late by 3 days.
Yeah, where it's
built the whole house.
Yeah, it's same in my world where certainly once you're getting into negotiation, on the resale side where, it can get fiery and you get the inspection back and, it can be a pretty intense experience. None of that seems to matter as long as the last 3 days. If the last 3 days go great, they're just happy as a clam, as if nothing ever happened. It comes down to that finish.
And it's all the work that we put in ahead of time.
Totally.
So
we're just miles of checklists and just trying to find issues before there are issues. And in your world, it's got to be even more than mine.
Yeah, we have our schedules really tight, but there's obviously gaps and things we can work on. I think that's one thing that we always strive to be is like we have so many processes in line, and one of them is like a follow-up on it. And so what do we do when we score? Everyone scores our team individually, and then we talk about it. So what happened well? What didn't happen well? What did we say wrong? And obviously, like the first couple things that we did wrong where we set the wrong expectations on permit timelines.
Yep.
Now we know. And so we set those expectations right. Now, what else can we do better?
Yep. And last question, then we'll get out of here. What are the mistakes that you see people frequently make when they're building a property? Where mainly on the decisions that the client makes. What are the things that you go, I see people do this a lot, and I really wouldn't recommend you do it? I have a little list, but I want to hear what yours are.
Yeah, I mean, it's very wide on what it is. The biggest thing I would say is like spend money on the glass shower.
Yeah.
Because like there's so many
Just do
plans
it.
that just have this glass door where if you just open it up, it's not much different in cost. And I would challenge most builders to say, is it really that much different? It's less tile, less framing, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Do the glass shower. It makes your bathroom look so much bigger and
Yep.
better. Definitely curbless showers on the first floor is a great one.
it. Yep.
From a leak
That's
perspective.
a good one.
The other thing is, do a tile, a steel tub with tile up to the ceiling in your bathrooms.
Yep.
From a maintenance perspective as a builder and from a maintenance perspective as a homeowner.
Moisture as it rises.
Yeah. And like the fiberglass ones, if you don't caulk them every year and you don't maintain them, they're going to leak.
Got it.
So those things are really the big ones. Other than that, like, make sure your microwave's vented outside. It's simple.
I can't believe how many times I've seen that not happen, even in new construction.
Yeah. That I don't understand it, but we do it every time. Energy Star requires that, so we're required to do that.
Actually, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure my microwave does not vent outside at my own house. I got to double check on that.
But yours isn't new construction.
No, it's 1950s.
Yeah,
so, hey,
1950s, they weren't caring about that.
That's just character. Who wants to drill a new hole? Where,
especially not through the roof.
No. Just replace that sucker, which that's one huge benefit that I'm seeing more people now. It's just not having to deal with a new roof and a new AC for a long time.
Yeah.
Where, in my world, it's kind of different as far as the mistakes that I frequently see people make, or mistakes that people could make, because I'm really viewing it from, at some point, unless this is the home that you're going to build and you're going to die in, you never care about selling it, in that case, go wild with it. But normally when I look at new construction and I'm representing a buyer and going through the design meetings and whatnot, the mistake I often see is people, there's some things that are really cheap to change in a house down the road, like paint. You can paint it whatever color you want. Go crazy with the cheap things. With the expensive things like floors, or certainly if it's tiles that the cabinets sit on, if you want to change those floors, it impacts so much of the house. It's incredibly expensive. What cabinets you choose, the three things that I say you can't change or it's incredibly expensive to change is your ceiling height, the location of the house, because you literally have to sell and buy another one.
Yep.
Location, ceiling height, and square footage. They're the most expensive things to change. Where I go, hey, put the money into the difficult things. Make sure you're not going to go, hey, we won't have to spend $150,000 to add another, 800 square feet down the road. Set it up right. Put the money into the things that are really difficult to change or really expensive to change, and then everything else, go wild with it. If everything is glitter pink walls, just know you're gonna probably have to paint it before you relist.
Yeah, we coach them on the structural options.
Smart,
right?
Smart.
Like, do you want a third car garage? Well,
yeah.
It's easier to do it now.
Yeah.
Do you want to cover your patio?
So smart.
Do you want to do open to below?
Yep.
The big ticket items. That's the first things on our option summary.
So smart.
So always do the structural stuff.
Put it into the difficult things to change.
Yeah.
Changing a vanity is not a big deal.
No.
If you need to, go with the builder grant vanity. Get that third car garage.
100%.
Where you can change it whenever you want down the road. Yeah, that's so smart.
That's the kind of stuff. And then you were talking about what the benefits of building are, right? You get a 10-year, most builders are going to give you a 10-year structural warranty on the house.
Yep.
So you're buying that with that. You're getting warranties on all the things in the home. And it's up to code, current code today. Mm-hmm. And you have peace of mind when you do that.
Yep.
So a lot of really big benefits to building new, where if you buy an existing home, it's a time clock.
Totally. And insurance.
Yep.
Well, perfect. All right, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jack.
Appreciate it.